All right, so how much do I actually make from my rental properties? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay, not actually nothing, but in the eyes of Uncle Sam, yes. In the eyes of Uncle Sam, I'm broke. So let me explain. So the purchase price for both my rentals, um, my first rental, I got the entire purchase price was 145, and I probably put around 15,000 into it, so I was all in for 160,000. The second one was 172, and I put in about say 3,000. Okay, so you can make that all in at 175. So the mortgage for property one is 1417, and the mortgage for property two is 1773. The rent I get per month for property one is 1825, and the rent for property two is 1925. Now you may be thinking, okay, Nate, why do we have a property that's only cash flowing 150 bucks? Yeah, I mean that's a mistake we ended up making. All right, but that's okay. And I'll get a little bit more in depth to that in a separate video. But essentially, when I had bought that, the taxes had jumped afterwards. Um, the first like 6 months when I had that property, that was that monthly payment was also 1,400. So I was cash flowing around 500 bucks. I was on top of the world. I was like, okay, like this is great. I got two properties cash flowing a grand. That's nice. I feel good. But what ended up happening was when I had purchased the property, I did not look into the tax rate. I saw the taxes that were listed on Zillow, and that is what I used for putting in my numbers for my taxes. When in actuality, those numbers were based off of the prior sale of the home, and the house was a flip. It was a renovated property, so the prior sale of the home was very low. So that ended up causing some problems, right? Because for a while, for that entire second year, I mean, it was only cash flowing 50 bucks, and then now it went back up to 150. But those taxes you got to make sure you're keeping an eye on. That I'll go in a little bit more in depth into a separate video specifically on the taxing. But overall, that one does not cash flow a whole lot. Okay. Besides the point, we can get into taxes and insurance. So taxes on property one is 4320, and then 4572 for my second, and then insurance is 1256, and then 1209. So these are pretty much the same for both properties. Very similar. And then we'll get into maintenance. So maintenance wise, I usually account 10% for each property. So 10% of the yearly gross income for each property just for things to go wrong. And things do end up going wrong. So I would say honestly this 10% number early on is going to be a little bit higher. And then once you have the property situated and fixed up, it should hopefully go down a little bit. Vacancy, I put at 8% whenever I run the numbers on my properties. Honestly, I mean I haven't had any yet, but granted I've only had these properties for 2 years, 3 years. So I'm still on my first set of tenants, and the first set of tenants they signed for a year and a half lease. The second one signed a 1 year lease. Um, so I technically haven't had any vacancy other than when I had roommates and I had rooms open, but that I wouldn't really consider vacancy like that. I would still count 8% for the vacancy rate just because obviously at some point tenants are going to leave and then you're going to have a month or two where you have to fix everything up real quick and then get it listed again. So overall, the big picture between both properties only cash flowing about 500 bucks, right? So that's pretty bad. That's actually very bad to have two properties, especially when I've met dudes like at my previous work where man, there are people that I don't want to say they timed it right, but let's just put it this way: they were a little bit more fortunate than my situation, where they got into real estate when those rates were 2%, and they got rental properties. They have two duplexes, triplexes in Chicago, and those suckers, their rates are at 2%, so they're cash flowing like a grand, 1,500, 2 grand off of just one property, and that's not even having it paid down, right? So that is something I would love to have. Obviously, I don't think those rates are going to go that low in a while. So in the meantime, with these higher interest rates, because both of my properties have a 6.625 interest rate. So with that being the case, your cash flow is going to be a lot lower unless the market goes crazy again, and then we have another jump in rent prices. But obviously, I don't see that happening again for a while either. So overall, the monthly cash flow being at $500 for both properties is not great, right? That's really only kind of like breaking even in the sense that like that $500 a month is pretty much just going into saving for any type of repairs that need to get done. So you may be thinking, okay, well then why are you keeping these properties? Why are you keeping this if you're not getting anything out of it, but then you have the stress of having it? honestly, for me, it is still 100% worth it. And my reasoning for that is, okay, like, sure, you could put it in the stocks, right? You can put your property in the stocks, or you can put your money into stocks. Um, I still love the tangible feel of having real estate, as well as obviously the market will end up changing eventually, right? And the thing with real estate is over time, you owning it is just going to be a net benefit to your life. This, along with my personal strategy, which this I can get into a little bit deeper into a separate video, but essentially my personal strategy is I want to have the amount of properties that I can afford off of my W-2 salary, mortgage wise, if that makes sense. So if my W-2 salary, say you're netting at $4,000 a month, right? If you're netting $4,000 a month, I don't want those mortgages to be over $4,000 a month. Just for the sake that if anything bad were to happen, and say for some reason both properties were vacant and they had repairs and I couldn't get people in there for months, I want to be able to afford that off my W-2. Anything over that, I'm looking to pay off. So I've already made a good amount of progress on property one and paying off, to whereas now if I just let it ride, it would pay off itself in like 9 years. So I want to continue to throw money at that to pay that off, because once that is paid off, that's an extra. I mean, you have an extra $1,800 just pure cash flow, right? I mean, obviously you have to pay some taxes at the end of the year, but still, you're seeing that on a monthly basis. You can use that towards either paying off another property or just inflating your savings by a large amount for sure. So that is a big reason why I'm 100% going to keep my properties, as well as long term wealth wise. Once these are paid off, and my personal goal of buying 10 properties and paying them off, it's just gonna snowball. Once you pay the first one off and you're able to use that extra damn near 2 grand every month to pay off the second property, those properties should pay themselves off in around 2 to 3 years apiece. And me being a younger guy, like, I don't need to be rich right now. I would prefer it, don't get me wrong. But this is looking to set up very nicely to where when I'm in my 30s and I'm starting to have kids, I can take a couple years off of work. If I have rental properties that are making me a couple grand a month, I could take that extra time to raise my kids the way that I want to, and be very involved in their lives because of the amount of passive income I have. So it's not for right now. That's the thing with real estate. There are a lot of people that want to do flips, which I get it, but real estate is a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment. It is a great long-term investment, but you have to have that long-term mindset. Thanks for listening. I know I might have glossed over any parts. I mean, I'm still only second video. Cut me some slack, all right? I still got to work on practicing explaining my thoughts a little bit better and making better quality content. But if there's anything my audience notices that I do or don't do enough, just let me know. I mean, I want to get better at this. This is a skill that I want to build, as long as along with my real estate skills. I want to learn how to invest better. But I want to learn how to make videos better, just because, like I said, I've had very minimal conversations explaining to people because many people were not interested. And I would try to get people interested in real estate because I thought it was so cool. I thought it was cool. I'd be like, hey, like, dude, I can retire at 40. I can retire even earlier if I'm okay with, you know what I mean, with living below my means. But I try to get many people on that path, and very few were even interested. So I'm hoping that YouTube audiences, people are going to flock to it that are interested. Obviously, there's a lot more people on YouTube than I meet in real life. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching. See ya.